Simply learn. Your pace, your place.
Hello and welcome to the Project Management Institute's Risk Management Professional Certification Preparatory course offered by Simply Learn. This is the third lesson of the course. In the previous lesson, we discussed the risk management framework. In this lesson, we are going to discuss the principles and concepts of project risk management. This lesson is about understanding the individual and overall project risks, application of project risk management to the projects, importance of communication in risk management, and the project manager's role in project risk management. Risk identification cannot be a one-time activity. One needs to know what are the different levels at which the risk is being identified. We have to understand that risk identification is an iterative. Let us begin with the agenda of this lesson in the next slide. In this lesson, we will cover the concepts of individual risks and overall project risk, stakeholder risk attitudes, iterative process, importance of communication during risk management, responsibility for project risk management, and we will also cover the most important criteria, that is, the role of project manager in project risk management. Let us begin with our first concept, individual risks and overall project risk, in the next slide. The project risk is classified into two levels, namely individual risk and overall project risk. In the previous lesson, we defined the project risk as an uncertain event or a condition that has a positive or a negative effect on the project objectives. Understanding individual risk helps in overcoming the project-related risk and makes the project a success. Individual risks are specific events or conditions that might affect the project objectives. For example, the delay in arrival of equipment affects an individual activity and may delay the overall project schedule. Day-to-day project risk management focuses on these individual risks in order to enhance the prospects of a successful project outcome. Overall project risk is more than the sum of individual risks. The overall project risk represents the effect of uncertainty on the project as a whole. The assessment of project risk helps in decision-making at strategic level and in turn at program, portfolio and project governance levels to make priorities. By looking into the overall project risk, we can determine the contingency reserve required to manage the budget and the timeline of the project. Each stakeholder in the project will have different risk-taking attitudes. In the next slide, we will look into the stakeholder risk attitude. It is important for a project or a risk manager to understand stakeholders' risk attitudes. The risk attitudes of the project stakeholders determine the extent to which an individual risk or overall project risk matters. Some of the factors that influence risk attitude are stakeholders' sensitivity to issues such as environmental impacts, industrial relations, and strength of public commitments made about the project performance. Risk attitudes usually result in a desire for increased certainty in project outcomes, and it may express a preference for one project objective over the other. Understanding stakeholders' attitudes towards risk is an important component of risk management planning. The stakeholders' risk attitude can be classified into three major categories, namely risk seeker, risk neutral, and risk averse. The priority of the risk depends upon the risk attitudes and tolerance levels of the stakeholders. For example, if tolerance towards timelines is low, then all the risks that impact project timelines will be high priority risks. The question we need to ask is, what is my stakeholder's tolerance towards schedule, cost, quality, scope, and so on? A single stakeholder may adopt different risk attitudes at various stages in the same project. This attitude may change over a period of time during the project life cycle. Risk management is iterative in nature. We will discuss in detail about the iterative process of risk management in the next slide. Risk management is not a one-time activity. The identification and the overall risk management plan changes based on the dynamism. Usually, the amount of information available about risks will increase eventually. some risks may occur while the others may not. New risks arise and the characteristic of the existing ones may change. Therefore, the project risk management process should be repeated, and the plans must be progressively elaborated throughout the lifetime of the project. Now, let's discuss some important pointers. These pointers must be kept in mind when we talk about iterative processes of risk management. Firstly, risk identification is repeated throughout the project lifecycle. Secondly, periodicity should be determined. And lastly, risk identification can be repeated at a key milestone or when there is a change in a project or its operating environment. During this iterative process, the stakeholder engagement and communication is very important. In the next slide, we will know the importance of communication in the risk management. Communication is very important while conducting the project risk management. Project risk management cannot take place in isolation. The stakeholders should be kept informed about the progress of the project, which in turn helps them to identify the risks as well. Conveying the right information at the right time to the right person or stakeholder is called effective communication. Important points to be kept in mind to make the risk management informative or to create awareness are as follows. Firstly, project risk management cannot be conducted in silos. Secondly, risk identification and analysis depends on stakeholders' input. This ensures that nothing is left out and risks are accessed realistically. Thirdly, there should be effective and honest communication among the stakeholders. And fourth, the result or the output of communication should meet the need of each stakeholder as well as the overall project objectives. Let us now look into the responsibility to be carried out during project risk management in the next slide. Management of project risk is not limited to a few risk specialists. Since project risks can affect project objectives, anyone with an interest in achieving those objectives should play a role in project risk management. Let us now discuss some of the responsibilities for project risk management. Risk management is everyone's responsibility. Project risk management should be an integral part of all the other project knowledge areas, like time, cost, quality, scope, etc. Roles and responsibilities like owners, assessee, should be clearly identified and communicated. Finally, one can use the RACI model to define the roles and responsibility. Let's look into RACI model in detail now. R stands for responsibility. It refers to the person who implements the defined activities and takes action to implement the risk responses. A stands for accountability of the person who takes the ownership about risk implementation and managing. C stands for consult, or a person who acts as the expert and provides the guidance regarding the risk management success. And I stands for inform, that is, the person who will be informed about the status of risk management progress. Only by defining the responsibility of project risk management for stakeholders will not end here. It is important to understand the role of the project manager from the project risk management point of view. In the next slide, we will understand the role of project manager. Project manager plays an important role in carrying out the overall project risk management during the project. The project manager is responsible for delivering a successful project which fully meets the defined objectives. Further, a project manager is accountable for the day-to-day management of the project, including effective risk management. The role of a project manager can be explained as follows. Encouraging the senior management support for project risk management activities. Determining the acceptable levels of risk for the project in consultation with stakeholders. Developing and improving the risk management plan. Promoting project risk management processes. Facilitating open and honest communication about risk with the stakeholders. Participating in all the project risk management processes and its improvements. Auditing risk responses for effectiveness and documenting the lessons learned. monitoring the efficiency and effectiveness of the project risk management process. Escalating the risks that go beyond tolerances. In other words, escalating the risks that are outside the authority or control of project manager to the senior management, as and when required. Regular reporting of risk statuses to the stakeholders with recommendations. Overseeing risk management by subcontractors, applying reserves like contingency funds to deal with identified risks. And finally, approving the risk responses and actions for implementation. Depending on the size of the project and nature of risks, a project manager can take support of risk managers to manage risks. With this, we've come to the end of Lesson 3. Let us summarize this lesson in the following slide. In this lesson, we covered the principles and concepts of project risk management, particularly about the two levels of project risks, that is, individual risk and overall project risk. We understood the different risk attitudes based on stakeholders' culture, such as risk seeker, risk neutral, and risk averse. We also learned that risk identification is an iterative process. We discussed the importance of communication in risk management, wherein we understood that communication should be effective and honest to meet the needs of stakeholders and project objectives. In addition, we covered the responsibility for risk management, wherein we understood that the responsibility for project risk management is on everyone. Finally, we looked into the project manager's role to carry out effective project risk management. In the next lesson, we will discuss the high-level risk management processes and their flow in the project risk management. Thank you.